Hello everyone, this is part 81 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Last night really was something. I was hitting the sake pretty hard with Tsunade. Jiraiya let out a yawn as he started to roll out of bed. However, there was something holding him in place, something, or someone, clinging to his arm. Oh, well, did something happen last night? He couldn't remember all that well. And turning to whatever was holding him in place, the sight that filled his morning gaze was both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was like you were looking upon a beautiful lioness, and one wrong move would mean your death. Yes, clinging to Jiraiya's arm was none other than the gorgeous and buxom blonde who'd plagued his dreams for decades, Tsunade. Did they really do it last night? Based on his and Tsunade's state of dress, it certainly was looking like that. Jiraiya stiffened as he could feel Tsunade roll in the bed. Yep, he was well, at least he was going out with a bang. Sitting up in the bed and allowing the sheets to fall off of her, Tsunade let out a big yawn. Finally, they were right there, directly in front of him. All 106 centimeters of their glory, just hanging out, mere inches from his face. Maybe he was already as visions of heaven filled his eyes. And not even missing a beat, Tsunade laid back down in the bed, snuggling into the self-proclaimed super pervert. Good morning, Jiraiya, Tsunade spoke, and Jiraiya started sweating, just as Tsunade's bright brown eyes fluttered open to meet Jiraiya's, and Tsunade gave Jiraiya one of her sweet smiles, the one which always sent a chill down Jiraiya's spine. Oh, stop it already, you're soaking the bed with your sweat. Jiraiya froze. Here Tsunade was, for his perverted eyes to behold, and close enough where he could cop a feel at moment's notice. Why wasn't Tsunade pummeling him to death right now? Surely he must already be then. Just relax and enjoy the moment. There's no guarantee I'm going to let it happen again, Tsunade hummed. It took Jiraiya a moment to process before he just smiled and decided not to let this go to waste as he slipped back into the bed. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Good morning, everyone. Let's get started. Tsunade smiled as she entered the council chamber at 8 a.m. sharp to see the Shinobi and Hokage councils seated, though Danzo appeared to be absent. So with that, Mitokado Homura and Koharu Utatane were present to represent the Hokage's council. Hyuga Hiyashi, Nara Shikaku, Yamanaka Inoiki, Akamaiki Chusa, Inazuka Chum, Aburame Shibi, Kurama Unkai, Sarutobi Asuma, and Senju Tsunade represented the Shinobi Council. Are we waiting on Uchiha Dono? Asuma asked. It was considered polite for the clan heads and respective council members to refer to each other as such, referring to their clan name instead. Uchiha Dono will not be joining us for this first hour, considering this deliberation is about him, Tsunade said. What about Shimura Dono? Shimura Dono had some pressing matters which he had to attend to and regretfully cannot attend this council meeting, Koharu spoke. Tsunade wasn't comfortable with not knowing where Danzo was or what he was up to, but she was also glad he wasn't here. And with a motion of her wrist, Tsunade sent Shizune around the room to hand out a briefing to everyone. As you are all aware, I had to cancel our last scheduled council meeting due to a village emergency. Said emergency was the reappearance of Orochimaru. I'll give you all a brief moment to read over the report Shizune provided all of you. Hiyashi, is this true? Gasped Asuma, breaking formalities to ask Hiyashi if his daughter was actually killed by Orochimaru. The shame on Hiyashi's face confirmed it without words. And how's your clan holding up, Shikaku? Toshi's loss is definitely felt, Shikaku spoke. He was a good kid. Troublesome, but good. As you're reading, the afternoon of October 9th, we received word that Team Anko encountered and was abducted by Orochimaru. Immediately, we dispatched a rescue squad of Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Hyuga Hinata. They were to be backed up by a team consisting of Jiraiya, Hitaki Kakashi, Meito Gai, and Kaito Shizune, along with a full squad of medical ninja who would wait at the border. The rescue squad breached Orochimaru's base, encountering heavy resistance upon the initial entry. Resistance includes the Fuma clan, who are native to the land of rice and loyal to Orochimaru and specialize in spider-based jutsu. Over a dozen of Orochimaru's curse mark experiments, a woman bearing a bloodline called the Shoten, crystal release. Shoten. But that bloodline was thought to only be a myth, Homura interrupted. Yes, but, based on Hyuga Hinata's report, I am inclined to believe that it was indeed the Shoten she faced, Tsunade said. The report states that she defeated her in such a way that will cripple her shinobi capabilities, if not kill her. They did not think to capture these subordinates. Homura asked. Certainly, if the Shoten bloodline could be put to use for Konoha's benefit. No. The only orders they had were to retrieve Team Anko, and if an opportunity presented itself, eliminate Orochimaru and Yakushi Kabuto. No such orders were given to capture his subordinates, Tsunade stated. As they are now available, I have dispatched some Anbu squadrons to further examine the base and extract anything which may be of value to Konoha. So we will have to wait for their reports if the Shoten wielder survived and has been captured. In addition, Uzumaki Naruto encountered and defeated one of Orochimaru's experiments where he was trying to grow his own biju. Silence, and some disbelief, but also complete acceptance as Tsunade continued reading the briefing. The rescue squad regrouped within Otogakure and proceeded to find Anko and Hyuga Hanabi, as well as encountering Yakushi Kabuto. Kabuto was engaged and defeated, though a body was unrecoverable, Tsunade stated. Finally, with Haruno Sakura and Hyuga Hinata staying back to treat Mitarashi Anko, whose injuries were severe and life-threatening, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto continued in search of the final surviving team member, Shikuzu Kaitami. With her, they encountered and engaged Orochimaru. By the time the relief squadron arrived, engagement between Uzumaki, Uchiha, and Orochimaru had ceased, Tsunade stated. Orochimaru was defeated and a body was recovered. After running every identification test available, I can conclude that Orochimaru is S. That news alone sent a number of murmurs racing around the room. So if Hatake-san and Jiraiya-sama did not arrive in time to participate in the battle, then the logical conclusion is that Uzumaki and Uchiha are to be credited with the K. Shibi asked. Based on the details given by all parties, Uzumaki, Uchiha, Hatake, and Jiraiya, the relief squad played no role in the actual battle itself, only with helping to ensure the rescue squadron was able to exit enemy territory successfully, Tsunade said, reading the details of the report containing the information which was to be publicly distributed. Hokage-sama, perhaps I should inquire as to the reason why you bring this up now instead of at the full council meeting, Shikaku inquired, thought he already had a good idea of what Tsunade's aim was. I am formally recommending Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke for promotion to Jonin rank, Tsunade stated. Shikaku and Hiashi did not appear surprised by that motion. However, most other council members, regardless of where their opinions stood on Naruto and Sasuke, were surprised. Though Tsunade was Hokage, she did not possess the power to just award field promotions to Jonin rank. She could, in theory, do so for Chunin rank, but even still she would have to be able to justify her reason for doing so. Even after the Chunin exams, Tsunade technically had the final say in promotions, though oftentimes she deferred her judgment to the recommendation of the judges and the approval of the council to avoid what were often unnecessary fights. Jonin was a different story. Along with the rank of Jonin came certain privileges and security clearances, and so the approval for Jonin promotion had to run through a higher level procedure. Technically, the promotion to Jonin had to be recommended and the recommendation approved by the Shinobi Council. Afterwards, she would have the final sign-off, a sort of veto power in the event she didn't agree with the promotion. The civilian council still had no say in the promotional hierarchy of Konoha's shinobi, and the Hokage's council was there more to ensure that the procedures were followed correctly, yet they had no formal say in the actual promotion approval, even though they acted as if they did. Tsunade-sama, as you are aware, field promotions outside of wartime are exceptionally rare, Homura stated. Especially field promotions to Jonin rank. That I am, Tsunade stated. However, I believe that Uzumaki and Uchiha have proven to be exceptions. You'll all find their mission records on separate doents provided to you. Let's start with the missions they were on together, considering they are on the same squad. While I will admit, their mission records are not as flushed out as some other Jonin candidates, what you will notice is the ratio of C and B ranked missions to A- or even S ranked mission. And it is simple fact that both Naruto and Sasuke have 2 S ranked missions successfully completed. One is disclosed on the doents you possess, the assistance to Sunagaku when their Kazekage was captured by Akatsuki. The other is the mission they just returned to. Once the reports are finalized and sealed, the second official S-rank mission will be added to their resume. When it came to Jonin promotions, C and B rank missions didn't do much to justify the promotion. What the council wanted to see were completed A rank missions. S rank missions were even better, though even those were extremely rare to see. Most Jonin candidates didn't have a mission that came close to S rank, and here Naruto and Sasuke each had 2 confirmed and successful S rank missions. Now, you will also notice the very first non-D- rank mission listed on their resumes just so happens to be an A rank mission. Should any of you doubt the validity of that A rank mission as Green Genin, I dare you to challenge Yukihaku or Momoiki Zabuza to a spar. As for Uzumaki, other A rank missions of note are the recent mission to the Land of the Sea to investigate an operation confirmed tied to Orochimaru, and also his involvement with the overthrowing of Kazuhana Doto in the Land of Snow. Uchiha on the other hand has been involved with Anbu for 2 years, and so details of many of those missions are classified. But he does have 6 confirmed A-rank missions during his tenure with Anbu. Furthermore, both Uzumaki and Uchiha have contributed in or been responsible for the death or capture of numerous S-rank ninja. Naruto has defeated Han of the Steam Armor from Iwagakure, as well as Roshi of the Lava Style also from Iwagakure, though Iwagakure will deny the last one as we believe it to have been a covert operation on their behalf. Sasuke has defeated Uchiha Itachi. They also assisted in the defeats of Deidara, Kakazu, and the capture of Hiden the Immortal Butcher, all S-rank criminals. And now, the 2 of them have confirmed Kei Orochimaru, arguably the most infamous criminal in modern Konoha history and the one responsible for the death of the Sandaime Hokage. Shikaku nodded. To him, this was all a formality. But formalities were still required to follow procedure. And procedures dictated that the Hokage, or the recommending party, presented the case for promotion to Jonin rank, especially when it was a field promotion and outside of the norm. Procedures were troublesome. While their mission records do fall short in terms of queni, they make up in it for quality, Asuma noted. If we may, I recall seeing Jiraiya and Hitaki Kakashi outside of these chambers before entering. Seeing as they were personally responsible for the training of Uchiha and Uzumaki, I would like for them to vouch for their students' readiness. Tsunade simply nodded, as did Koharu and Hamura, indicating that such a motion was allowed. Shizune returned but a moment later with Jiraiya and Kakashi in tow, the 2 standing at attention in front of the Shinobi Council. Shikaku smiled, sending a knowing glance over to Tsunade. Did he think Naruto and Sasuke were worthy of Jonin rank? Yes. However, as had been the case many of times in the past, the civilian council had a habit of disrupting Shinobi Council proceedings as such. It didn't matter if they had a say in promotions or not, they just tended to get in the way. And as such, proceedings which should have taken no more than an hour, often took weeks, if not months, depending on how easy it was to convene the council. Tsunade was trying to get through this as quick as possible before the civilian council took their seats in roughly 30 minutes. Hitaki Kakashi, Jiraiya, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto have been nominated for a promotion to Jonin rank, Koharu addressed. As you yourselves, Jonin of Konohagakure, are aware, becoming a Jonin requires one to demonstrate such a level of maturity and proficiency befitting of the highest awarded rank. What say you? I, Hitaki Kakashi, commander of the squad consisting of Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, and recently Sai, do acknowledge the skills and experience of Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. I will speak on behalf of the skills of Uchiha Sasuke, but I feel it best for Jiraiya to comment on the skills of Uzumaki Naruto. To be clear, yes, Sasuke has shown he possesses skills in the shinobi arts of ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, and bukijutsu that exceed the standards of those expected of Jonin rank. Given the performance from his most recent missions, he has accomplished what many who are Jonin would not have been able to. For ninjutsu, which is Sasuke's strongest area, the standards which Jonin candidates are held to during the Jonin trials are that one achieves mastery in at least one chakra element, with proficiency in a second. Sasuke has achieved what I would consider as high mastery in both lightning and fire. He is also at least proficient in earth and water. But I believe the requirement has been exceeded with the first 2. Arbitrary rankings of how proficient one is with chakra nature transformation were implemented as a way to give some sort of scoring metric. However, The levels of proficiency were subjective to the examiner, though there were some generally agreed upon milestones. Proficient indicated that the user could cast more than the basic C rank jutsus in that element, requiring that they would have trained in chakra nature transformation. Mastery was achieved if the user could perform an A rank ninjutsu within that element. High mastery was used to describe those who could wield S rank jutsu within that element. And finally there was true mastery. The best way to describe this was that someone was so proficient with an element to be considered true mastery was if they were comparable to the Nadime's skill with Suten, water style. The council takes note of Uchiha Sasuke's skill, how about his mind? Shikaku asked. Sasuke has a tactical and calculative mind, Kakashi stated. Maybe not Nara level, but he is keen on strategy and preparation when going into a situation. In that regard, he has learned much from his Anbu training. I will say, he is also capable of keeping a level head in the event of a changing environment. And for a few more minutes, Kakashi continued on, doing the dance and outlining a few recent examples of Sasuke's mental abilities while performing his shinobi duties. Last question on Uchiha Sasuke, Inoki asked. And this is to both of you. Would you vouch for and recommend Uchiha Sasuke for the rank of Jonin? I, Hitaki Kakashi, recommend Uchiha Sasuke for the rank of Jonin, Kakashi said. However, Jiraiya's response was a little less formal. I will support his nomination, although most of my experience with Sasuke comes from what I've heard in mission reports, Jiraiya admitted. Yes, he had to be honest here. If there are no other questions on Uchiha Sasuke, we move now to Uzumaki Naruto, Koharu announced. Jiraiya, if you may inform us on the same questions asked about Uchiha Sasuke. Right. I took Naruto on as an apprentice nearly 4 years ago from this day. Back then, the kid was hopeless. However, he has been refined into a shinobi who even myself would find it difficult to best in combat. Who would you say would win between you and Naruto? Chum asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Hard to say really. I have more battle experience than him, so that gives me the edge. However, he does possess stronger ninjutsu than I do, not to mention he is my equal, if not my better, now when it comes to fuinjutsu. This last mission proved that he has what it takes to hang with someone who is called a Sannin, though that is just a la bestowed upon myself and Tsunade, and not a rank or anything. If I had to call it, I think the odds are slightly in his favor, Jiraiya admitted. And few eyebrows were raised at this claim. Back to the assessment, please, Koharu corrected. Yeah, I know. Kakashi's better at all the formalities than I am. Let's start with his bukijutsu, or rather kenjutsu I should say. Momoiki Zabuza, one of the renowned 7 swordsmen of the Mist, has acknowledged his skills with a sword, and Mifune of the Land of Iron has personally trained him. I feel that in and of itself should speak for Naruto's skills with weapons. His taijutsu is good. It is nothing special, but I will admit it is what is expected out of a Jonin candidate. His ninjutsu however is exceptional. His affinity is wind, and I would say he is clearly high mastery and pushing his way to true mastery with wind. I don't know I would call it mastery, but he's at least proficient with fire and water. If I may, Jiraiya, Kakashi smiled. Perhaps it is because he is your student that you are being more critical about his assessment. From what I have witnessed, I would say Naruto is at mastery in at least water. Maybe fire as well, but he tends to lean more on water than he does fire. I would say you are correct, Kakashi, Jiraiya stated. Genjutsu, well that's his weakest area. He possesses a large chakra reserve, which makes achieving the delicate chakra control required for casting genjutsu nearly impossible. But he is skilled in dispelling it. Ninjutsu and bujijutsu, he would exceed every expectation on the Jonin trials. Taijutsu and genjutsu he would at least prove to be proficient enough. However, where he really excels is fuinjutsu. When Chum asked me how we would fare in a fight together, I said he is likely my better in fuinjutsu. The more I think on that statement, the more I agree that he is my better. And considering I'm recognized by the village as a seal master, that gives me every right to declare him one as well. As for his mind, well fuinjutsu alone should speak for his problem-solving skills. The art is incredibly complex about how you incorporate kani, matrices, and multiple seals together. Think of it like playing a game of shogi within a game of shogi. Now, he is able to apply these skills when it comes to planning. And if I'm correct Kakashi, he is rather adept at preparation and traps. But if Sasuke is the tactical mind and Sakura is the resourceful mind on your squad, then Naruto is the mind that adapts to the changing environment, which any of us with field experience knows just how quick things can take a turn for the worst, and someone who can act correctly when that happens is a valuable asset indeed. I would agree with that assessment, Kakashi acknowledged. Very well, Jiraiya, your comments on Naruto are noted, Koharu motioned. Do we have any other questions before proceeding to the vote? I have one regarding Uzumaki, Kurama Unkai spoke. We all know what he is, our village's Jinchuriki. Within him is the Kyuubi no Yoko, the same demon which attacked this village 16 years ago. My question is, how secure is the Kyuubi within him? Do we have to worry about the Kyuubi being released in the event he were to take on the more stressful duties of a Jonin? Between being hunted by Akatsuki and confronting Orochimaru, I would say he's been through enough stressful situations where the Kyuubi hasn't been a factor, Jiraiya stated. And as the one who is most familiar with my late student's work, I can say with absolute certainty that the Kyuubi is not a danger to us within Naruto's seal. Carefully warded, Inoki thought, being one of the few council members who knew the truth about the Kyuubi's status. Very well, if there are no other questions, then I will ask Shizune to distribute the ballots, Koharu motioned. Take as much time as you need to deliberate amongst yourselves. But remember, field promotions in a time of peace are considered the rare exception. Since the last period of war, only 3 Jonin have advanced in rank as a result of field promotions. The ballots themselves were however returned fairly quick, even from the Kurama clan whom Tsunade was worried might be the lone holdout for getting this done and over quickly. After taking a moment to review the ballots, Koharu and Homura then spoke up. As per the bylaws of Konohagakure no Sato, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto have been recommended for a field promotion to Jonin rank. The Shinobi Council has heard and reviewed the arguments made for such a motion. And the Shinobi Council finds in favor of the requested promotions to both Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. Tsunade smiled. And Shikaku nodded. Most of the people sitting at this table already knew those two were ready for the Jonin rank. This was nothing more than a procedural formality. So long as the procedure was followed, there would be no issues. Even with Koharu and Homura occasionally opposing the Hokage and the Shinobi Council, what Tsunade and Shikaku had learned was that they were much worse when Danzo was present. What sort of dirt did Danzo have on him that would sway them vehemently to his side whenever he snapped his finger? Thank you, Honorable Council, Tsunade bowed before handing the scrolls to Shikaku and the rest of the council to sign the official promotion certificates. With that, I'll conclude this session of the Shinobi Council. Gives us about a 15-minute recess before the full Konoha Council convenes. Kakashi, Jiraiya, congratulations. And then the S-storm begins. Most of the Shinobi Council were thinking that they knew what was coming, and already the council members were placing bets as to which members of the civilian council would cave and which ones would shove that pole deeper up their XXXXXXXXXXXXX. About 30 minutes later, and the full Shinobi Council plus Haruno Kazashi were seated. Whoever bet they'd only be 10 minutes late, you're out, we already going on 20 minutes, called out Inoki as he went over the day's card. Damn it, Tsunade shouted. What in your right mind would make you think they'd be here within 10 minutes? Chum laughed. Yeah, should have known better, Tsunade groaned. At least the village wouldn't be burning down today. Hiashi excused himself to go and see if there were any signs of the civilian council arriving. Of all people there, Hiashi didn't need to go outside to see if anyone was there or not. Rather, he just wanted to check on Naruto, who was patiently waiting in the foyer with Jiraiya. Naruto was not officially a council member yet, though technically there was a seat reserved for him and, in truth, no one could stop him from taking that seat. The Uzumaki clan was not historically seated amongst the council. No, that seat belonged to his father, Namikaze Minato. By the Konoha village charter, anyone who achieves the law of Hokage is granted a seat on the council if one does not already yet exist. That seat then transfers down through their family or their clan until the line ends. Tsunade and Shikaku had triple-checked the records and doents. The Namikaze seat still existed, it had not been disbanded. But no proxy was ever named in doents or wills, unlike the Uchiha seat which oddly enough was turned over to Danzo. An oversight. No, Danzo was too cunning for an oversight. If she had to guess, Sarutobi-sensei did something to hide the Namikaze seat from Danzo. It wasn't until 8 to 1 out of 2 years ago that she and Jiraiya started to notice the gaps and inconsistencies that suggested someone, and likely Danzo, was meddling. They just didn't know how he was doing it. But there was a window of 7 to 8 years when Sarutobi appeared to be of the sound mind which earned him the lure of the professor. But the Doents were there establishing and maintaining the Namika's seat. And over the past few months, she had every doctor she could find perform a blind DNA cross-reference between a sample of Minato's DNA and Naruto's DNA. She had nearly 24 doctors who had signed off on a paternity test that said Minato was Naruto's father. And then if she needed, there were a few scrolls and relics sealed by Minato sitting in the vault and bound by B-Seal. Paranoid. Probably. But paranoid ninjas survived. Naruto's claim to the council was all but guaranteed. Yes, there would be some pushback. She expected that. It would come down to a vote. The vote would be whether or not Naruto's heritage would be accepted. Anyone who had a shred of logic wouldn't be able to deny Tsunde's mountain of evidence. And in the unlikely event enough of a resistance would mount, every clan head was ready to pull whatever strings they had left. Naruto on the Shinobi Council meant the Civilian Council would have to elect another representative, one whom the clan heads and Tsunade would put forth every effort to make sure was sympathetic to the true purposes of Konoha, similar to Kazashi. And a second guaranteed vote on the Civilian Council that sided with the Shinobi side meant that Tsunade and the Hokage faction could undo anything that the Civilian Council, or rather Danzo's faction, had done since Sarutobi Sensei became soft. But finally getting away from that thought, the 9 remaining members of the Konoha and Civilian Council arrived. Aside from Haruno Kazashi, elected representative, the Civilian Council included Hatika Rukiko, Director of Civilian Affairs, Katazana Roki, Finance Minister, Renza Kutaki, Education Minister, Takamo Ichira, Commerce Secretary, as well 2 more elected representatives consisting of Fukunaga Natsu, an influential businessman and developer, and Wanamoji Mitsuo, the owner of the Konoha News Corporation. Homura, Koharu, and Danzo made up the remaining 3 seats to balance the Civilian Council's number with the Shinobi Council's member. Good morning, fellow council members, greeted Councilwoman Renza. We apologize for being late, but we really do not appreciate these sudden schedule changes. And here we go. Uchiha Dono, I was hoping you've had some time to reconsider the CRA. Councilman Wanamojo greeted as the Civilian Council made their rounds before taking their seat. Latest polls show a lot of interest amongst the young female populace. Sasuke's eye twitched, and he was certain he felt the ground shake, as if Sakura had punched something off in the distance. Renza Dono, while I do apologize for the sudden change in schedule, as I clearly communicated in the delay notice, a matter of village security came up that simply could not be ignored, Tsunade replied, deciding to start off rather tame for the day. I believe I instructed council members to keep their calendars open for the next week. And what sort of emergency could possibly warrant delaying the council meeting scheduled for the 16th anniversary of the Yondaime Hokage? Orochimaru, Shikaku stated plainly. The same Orochimaru responsible the invasion 3 years ago. Oh, well, I pray there is some good news to share on the subject, Councilman Wanamoji spoke up. I do. But first we need to welcome a new council member, Tsunade stated. An heir of a clan who holds a dormant seat on the Shinobi Council has come of age recently. Oh really? Which clan is this you speak of? Wanamoji asked, excited for what would potentially be a headline story. The Namikaze clan, Tsunade smiled. And so it begins. Namikaze, as in Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. Councilwoman Renza asked. The very same, Tsunade continued smiling. As you are certainly aware, when someone takes the lure of Hokage, they and their clan or family are granted an automatic seat on the council. Since Minato's death 16 years, that seat has remained dormant until his heir came of age. Heir of the Yondaime found. No. Return of the Namikaze. Wanamoji was already thinking of headlines for tomorrow's paper. Well, don't keep us waiting, Tsunade-sama, Councilwoman Renza practically drooled. An heir of the Yondaime was seriously found. Considering it was the 16th anniversary of the Yondaime's death, the timing couldn't have been any better. Though I must ask why it remained dormant instead of a proxy being assigned. Renza Dono, as you are aware, the Yondaime made many enemies as a result of his achievements during the Third Great Shinobi War, Hiashi stated. Even though Konoha may feel safe, Had Minato's enemies gotten wind of a child, they certainly would have sought to have him killed. We have spies in the other hidden villages, who isn't to say they don't have spies here, Onoiki said. I don't mean to discredit our own security and intelligence forces, but spies and would-be do manage to infiltrate the village from time to time. The question is for how long before we find them. Yes, I think I understand, Councilwoman Renza stated. So his Idini was concealed for his safety. So, who is he? Bring him in, Tsunade motioned to Shizune as the entire Shinobi Council held a collective breath. The doors to the council chamber creaked open and through it stepped a certain blonde everyone recognized, flanked from behind by none other than his godfather. May I present, Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, the only son of Namikaze Minato, Yondaime Hokage, Tsunade presented. The entire Shinobi Council stood, including the Kurama clan representative. Kurama Unkai was the closest the Shinobi Council had to an unknown. But even then the elder Shinobi was smart enough to know the difference between a scroll and a kunai. And Naruto's accomplishments over the years had reached his ears. At least as a Shinobi, the blonde had earned his respect. On the civilian council side, Kazashi stood, as did Homura and Koharu. So even those old crones understand. However, the rest of the civilian council seemed to be processing the revelation. Hokage-sama, esteemed members of the council, Naruto bowed. So he could be respectful. Tsunade was not letting this go. Welcome, Uzumaki, no, Namikaze Dono, Hiashi greeted, gesturing to the seat which had been prepared between himself and Sasuke. Tsunade, what kind of joke is this? Councilman Hatake asked in disbelief, a hoarseness in his voice. It is no joke, Tsunade grinned. No, she's right. It's no joke, it's a disgrace on the Yondaime. He's the very thing that killed him for Kami's sake. This time, it was Councilwoman Renza who spoke up. Pay no heed to them, Naruto, Hiashi advised. Listen, always listen. But know that blind name-calling never got anyone anywhere. Renza Dono, as you can see, those who have experience in the shinobi arts understand what exactly it was that my father did, Naruto replied. On that night, my father, the Yondaime Hokage, could not defeat the Kyuubi. So he sealed the Kyuubi within me, his newborn son. By doing do, he gave me an important mission, to protect the village from the Kyuubi. And to this day, I continue to uphold that mission. No, you're the Kyuubi, Renza spoke. Renza Dono, that's not fair. Tsunade's eyebrow raised. That objection didn't come from the Shinobi Council, nor did it come Kazashi. Naruto had a supporter on the civilian council. Damn, Tsunade swore. There goes another 5,000 Ryo. Yes, the village certainly wasn't burning down today. Tsunade looked over to the source of Naruto's unexpected supporter, Takamo Ichira, the commerce secretary. Not fair. Not fair that he M1000s that night. Not fair that he my son. Renza spat. I lost family too that night. My father, my sister, and my nephew, Ichira spoke. And for years, I was content with blaming Uzumaki-san here. I was nearly killed by Oto Ninja when they attacked 4 years ago. And me, as well as the Rakinas, whom I must say run the best restaurant in the village, have you been there? I have, Naruto smiled. Their food is delicious. Well, along with them you saved me as well that night, Ichira spoke. But that wasn't it. I'm the commerce secretary. My job is to ensure that goods flow into and out of Konoha, and ideally for a good deal. Discounted usage of the southern ports out of the land of waves, increased trade from the land of greens and land of birds, and the most surprising new trading partner, the land of snow. When I inquired from merchants from those lands, every time your name came up, and in a positive light at that. So what you're saying is he bought you, Ichira-san, Renza said. I would rather look at it as he earned my respect, Ichira said. Looking around, Tsunade and a few of the more astute members of the Shinobi Council noticed a few of the civilian council members were shifting in their seats, torn between whose side they should really take here. Renza and Hatake, the de facto ringleaders of the civilian advocacy within Konoha, or Ichira and the Shinobi Council. Tsunade-sama, perhaps if you have doentation to support Uzumaki-san being the Yondaime's legitimate heir, Shikaku motioned. I do, Tsunade said, opening up the large binder she had sitting at her seat. First is the marriage certificate between Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. And while their wedding ceremony was small and private, The marriage certificate was witnessed and notarized by 10 individuals, including myself, Jiraiya, Sarutobi-sensei, Hyuga Hiyashi, and Fugaku Uchiha, Tsunade said, passing around the certificate. While some of those names are no longer amongst us today, ask any signatory on that certificate and they will vouch for the union. Uzumaki. So, you were given your mother's last name? Ichira asked. I was. As I said, my father had many enemies, Naruto replied. Although, the Uzumaki clan had their own share of enemies. Next, I have the formal birth certificate, with Sarutobi Hiruzen attesting to the parentage of Uzumaki Naruto, Tsunade stated. Furthermore, I have over 24 blind paternity and maternity tests, signed and sealed by doctors at the Konoha Hospital, that link Uzumaki Naruto to Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. Tsunade then pulled out a letter, written by Minato to Hiruzen explaining the situation and his intention to seal the Kyuubi within Naruto. And some other doents to help support Naruto's claim. Is there anyone here who wishes to provide evidence that will either support or deny the claim that Uzumaki Naruto is the son of Namikaze Minato? Homura inquired, and the defiant Hatika raised her hand. Can you produce evidence? Hatika backed down. Then we put it to a vote. Does this council recognize the evidence brought forth that Uzumaki Naruto is the legitimate son and heir of Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage? Koharu motioned. If you vote yes, please raise your hand. Naruto looked around. At the end of the day, his heritage still came down to a vote. Part of him was nervous. There was always a chance that something could go wrong. But as the hands went up around him on the Shinobi Council's side, it reassured him that the Shinobi of Konoha, his comrades, had his back. Even Koharu and Homura couldn't deny Naruto's claim, and Kazashi was more than happy enough to raise his hand. Ichira joined Kazashi, as did the finance minister Katazana Roki and Wanamoji Matsu. Hatika Rukiko, Renza Kutaki, and Fukunaga Natsu were the lone holdouts. But still it was more than enough to guarantee the council recognized Naruto's claim. This council recognizes Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto as the legitimate son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina, Koharu motioned. She wasn't resisting, not like she could do so anyways. The holder of her leash wasn't here, not that they could do anything at this point, and maybe this was her ever so subtle way at rebelling. You may take your seat as the representative of the Namikaze clan, Namikaze Dono. Naruto had to admit it was weird being called by his father's name. Again, it was nothing more than a clerical correction, but it was something he'd have to get done soon. The next order of business concerns you as well, Namikaze Dono, Koharu stated. Or, should I just refer to you as Uzumaki Dono? I understand the significance of my father's name to this village. However, as long as I've known, my name has always been Uzumaki, after my mother and the clan she came from, Naruto stated. If the council may, I would ask to be referred to by the name Uzumaki. Uzumaki it is, Koharu nodded. The next order of business is whether or not to grant the Uzumaki clan status amongst Konoha. Do you wish to say anything before we begin the deliberations? I would. Honorable Council, the Uzumaki clan hails from the land of the Whirlpools, located off the eastern coast of the Land of Fire. If you trace back the lineage of the Uzumaki clan, you will find that they are distant cousins to the Senju clan, the founding clan of Konoha. Furthermore, it was the Uzumaki clan who brokered the peace between the Senju and Uchiha clans, leading to the formation of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto continued to explain how the Uzumaki clan, while not a part of Konoha, was intertwined with Konoha, including 2 of the Hokages being married to members of the Uzumaki clan, and how many of the defenses, barriers, and seals Konoha still uses today were either gifted from or derived from the Uzumaki clan. In short, it was a repeated lecture from that one meeting following the Chunin exams where Naruto earned his Chunin promotion. The council came around to a vote again as to whether or not to recognize the Uzumaki clan as an official clan of Konoha. The votes fell along the same line as the previous one, meaning it was official, Naruto had his clan. And around the room, Naruto was keeping tabs. Who supported him since the early days? Well, that would be the Shinobi clan leaders. Them and Sakura's father. They were his friends and allies. Takamo Ichira, he was willing to give a chance. Those who just flipped sides today, he'd approach cautiously. And as for the remaining holdouts, well, he was a shinobi of Konoha and they were still citizens of Konoha. He'd win 'em over eventually, but the Uzumaki clan wouldn't engage with them outside of what was required for council business. Our next order of business, Orochimaru, is S, Tsunade announced. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. That was terrible, Naruto groaned, rubbing his shoulder. How often do I have to do this? The full council only convenes regularly 4 times a year, Hiashi explained. There are emergency meetings, and the civilian council operates their own meetings, separate of the full council. You may appoint a proxy, typically someone within your clan, if you are unable to attend a meeting, or you want to distance yourself from the politics. But the only other Uzumaki who is currently a citizen of Konoha is Karen, and if I understand she's still under probation, meaning she cannot serve on the council. Keiko Abasan has expressed a desire to move to Konoha in an effort to connect the Uzumakis in the land of Iron and Konoha, Naruto stated. I wonder if I can leave the politics up to her. She is more likely to be approved as a proxy than Karen, Hiashi mused. Hiashi Otusan, I'm going to get some ramen, Naruto grinned. After a meeting like that, he needed it. Would you care to join? Unfortunately, I must pass, Hiashi stated. But perhaps some other time. There are some matters I must attend to with the clan, final funeral arrangements. I see, Naruto realized. The Hyugas were still mourning what befell them. Today's a day of celebration, Naruto. Save the mourning for tomorrow, but for you and your clan, today's a day of celebration, and in more ways than you think, Hiashi smiled knowingly. Now, while I must decline your invitation, it appears if there is someone else who may want to join you. Hiashi motioned forward to where Hinata was standing, dressed in a formal kimono of her own. A pale blue kimono with lavender flowers and the Hyuga emblem on the back. So, what's the occasion, Haim? Naruto grinned. It's not every day I get you dressed up like this, Hinata smiled before taking his arm. I know today's your day, but at least entertain me. If Hinata wanted to take a dressed-up stroll around the village, then who was he to deny her? Unfortunately for Naruto, Ichiraku was closed for the afternoon. Honestly, that was probably for the best. Slurping ramen in formal kimonos was not ideal. The proverbial cat was now out of the bag. Naruto's heritage was now public knowledge and it was only a matter of time before the news was disseminated to the rest of the village, and beyond. Tsunade had informed Natsuo that any time he wanted to, she'd turn over the remainder of his inheritance. It was more than just Tsunade simply giving Naruto the scrolls and effects, it was more of a legal matter, transferring of assets, accounts, and property apparently. Considering this evening he, his clan, and his friends insisted on celebrating in style, and he was stuck in a stuffy council chamber until well into the afternoon, it wasn't going to happen today. Tomorrow morning was the funeral proceedings at the Hyuga clan and Naruto had been requested to attend, so if he was lucky, the transfer would be completed tomorrow afternoon. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. That evening, at the part atop the Hokage's monument, everyone important to Naruto had gathered for a long-awaited celebration. His birthday, he could care less about. With the exception of the few recent ones, birthdays had never been anything special to him. No. What was special about today though was the scroll he had in his hand. It was a copy of the official clan charter that declared the Uzumakis were official. And as much as a few people wanted to make this celebration about him, he wanted to make this about them. This party explained why Ichiraku was closed earlier as Chuki and Ayami had to haul the Ichiraku ramen cart up to Monument Park. They had been contracted to cater this party. After all, what better way to celebrate Naruto's birthday than with ramen? Alcohol, well the only way to get Tsunade to agree to attend was to make sure there was alcohol on hand. However after Sasuke's party, Sakura, Ino, and Hinata needed to think a little differently how they wanted to do alcohol. So they had to rope off a separate area where someone could drink if they wanted to, but alcohol wasn't allowed outside of the bounds, and neither Lee nor Sasuke were allowed anywhere near that. Naruto had shed the formal clan head kimono in favor of a more relaxed yukata. And everyone else was dressed in a similar fashion. Hinata had her fun, she got her pictures of the two of them dressed in formal attire together, and now no one could say Naruto didn't know how to dress properly. Mifune chucked as he surveyed the party. All of Naruto's friends, the famous Konoha 16, were present and mingling. Team Iruka, also known as the Konohamaru Corps, were there. Many of Konoha's clan leaders had decided to make at least a quick stop to wish Naruto and his newly established clan well. The only one missing was the MC, as well as the rest of his family. LMMMGMGMMM. Oh, stop struggling, Tsunade-chan. It's not like the paperwork monster was going away tonight anyways. Tonight's a night to celebrate. Come join your family. Everyone's attention was turned to see a smiling Karai, along with her son Nobu, daughter Keiko, and a bound and gagged Tsunade slung over their shoulders. Kakashi, Asuma, and a few of the other Jonin present looked on, not sure what to do. On one hand, they had all been waiting for Tsunade to show. On the other hand, the Uzumaki clan decided to start their party off by the Hokage. Finally, after being released, Tsunade stood atop a makeshift table out offstage in the alcohol zone, prepared to make the toast she'd been committed to before being and dragged away from the never-ending nightmare of the Hokage's paperwork. So, the good news is I lost both of my bets earlier today. We're safe from any world-ending interruptions for at least the next 24 hours, Tsunade started off, trying to crack a joke. Look, I know the reason most of us are here for is the open bar. That's only you, Sunday-sama, some random person in the crowd, who may or may not be named Shizune, called out. Anyways, to the Uzumaki clan, may I be the first to officially say welcome to Konoha, Tsunade toasted. Though, she wasn't quite done yet as the applause eased down a little. I've been thinking about the best way to announce this, and maybe now is the best time. You're giving me the hat, Tabayo. Tempting, especially after all the paperwork I've been dealing with lately, but no, Tsunade replied. But this does involve you, so get your up here. You to Sasuke. Sasuke seemed surprised. He was just here because he didn't have anywhere else to be this evening. And the last thing he wanted was to get wrapped up in Uzumaki antics, again. But with a push from Kakashi, Sasuke was forced up to the center alongside Naruto. Ladies and gentlemen, Tsunade announced. Allow me to introduce you to Konohagakure no Sato's newest Jonin, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. J. Jonin. Naruto stuttered out of surprise. Barkan, are you serious? I am, Tsunade smiled before turning back to the crowd. For those of you still unaware, amongst other accomplishments, these two are solely responsible for the death of Orochimaru. The body has been confirmed. As such, their promotions to Jonin were confirmed this morning. Is that why there was a council meeting before we arrived this morning? Sasuke asked, receiving a nod from Tsunade as an answer. We'll have the official presentation and ceremony Friday 1 o'clock, at the tower. But, I figured it would give us one more thing to celebrate, not like we need an excuse, I just can't have more than one day of potential city destruction. Everyone who knew sweat dropped at that. As Tsunade ended her toast, the buxom Hokage went back to what she did best, drinking. Considering it was his party, Naruto was forced to mingle with the crowd, many of whom were congratulating him on the promotion, and then there was one. No fair boss. Konohamaru challenged. That's it. Before you get too far ahead of me, right here I'm going to prove I'm the stronger of the two. The stronger you are, the more this technique is, transform. The smoke cleared and standing where Konohamaru was were three women, all with red hair, jutsu, Uzumaki version. Oh yeah, shouted Jiraiya. This was just the shot in the arm he needed to finish his book. However, just about every other man couldn't help it as the floodgates opened and burst from their noses. However, a very ominous aura soon hit the foolish Sarutobi as Karen, Keiko, and Karai could be seen cracking their knuckles. Run, Sasuke-kun. Sakura called out with some food in hand as she went to see Sasuke sitting near the edge of the monument, just a little away from the center of the party. You should come back and join us. The Pinkett sat down beside her love interest before leaning over and plopping her head on his shoulder, even though Sasuke just seemed content to look out as the sun was setting over Konoha. Naruto is right, it's peaceful up here, Sasuke said. Won't be too much more of that with these guys around. Was that a joke? Sakura teased before laughing, even bringing a warm smile to Sasuke's normally cold face. You know, with you and Naruto making Jonin, I'm going to have to take the Jonin trials next year now, or else I'll feel like I'm falling behind. Again, Sakura pouted. Don't look at me. It's not my fault Kabuto wasn't as strong as Orochimaru, Sasuke defended. Hey, so I'm thinking of getting my own place soon, Sakura mused, almost as if she were hinting something to Sasuke. Not that I don't love my parents, but sometimes I just need to get away from my mom's nagging and my dad's constant jokes. You know, someplace that's a bit more private. Hey billboard. Tsunde's opening another cask. Sakura's head perked up at that. Go on, I'll be over in a bit, Sasuke motioned. And as Sakura went with Ino back to the festivities, Sasuke turned his eyes towards the village. This is what you wanted to protect, brother. The village as Itachi saw was a place where children could grow and families could celebrate without the constant threat of war. There were still some questions he wanted answered. What his mother showed him, obviously not all of the Uchiha were involved in their rebellion, but were there some that could have been spared. First Madara, and then the entire Uchiha clan, and now it was just him and apparently Katami. Did he say something to her? To her mother? Ask how she had Uchiha be in the Sharingan. Part of him wanted the answer, to see if she'd help with bringing the clan out the ashes. And part of him was content with just letting the wayward embers of the Uchiha out. I know it's technically Naruto's party, but you're in to a little bit of celebration as well. Sasuke then turned around to see Jiraiya, of all people, coming over to join him. I know I'm either the first one, or the last one you want to see right now. After everything that's happened with Itachi. No, I think I'm starting to see what he saw, Sasuke said. I hated him for most of my life. And that was my only drive. I never understood him, and now after he's gone am I finally starting to see. I may be a dried up old toad, but trust me when I say this, the village isn't going anywhere if we keep looking to the past, Jiraiya said, before turning his head back towards the party where Naruto was celebrating with his clan. I think Itachi saw that much of the village was too stuck in its old ways. And watching Tsunade struggle as Hokage, she wants to move the village forward, but traditions and old ways of thinkings keep getting in the way. Naruto will be Hokage, Sasuke stated. And trust me when I say he doesn't care about traditions or old ways. No, that he doesn't, Jiraiya smiled. But he won't be able to do it alone, whether he wants to or not. Someday, Tsunade and I won't be here. And then the village will belong to you and to Naruto. It'll belong to Sakura, Hinata, Shikamaru, Ino, Chuji, Kiba, Shino, Neji, Lee, Tenten, and it will be your duty to ensure that the village can be passed down to the generations beyond you. Regardless of what happened after the fact between your ancestor, Madara, and Hashirama, they founded this village with a purpose, Jiraiya added. And that purpose is what the Wall of Fire is. One day, when Naruto takes on the mantle of Hokage, and becomes the embodiment of the Wall of Fire, he will need the support of his closest friends and allies. One of those is you. He will need your support. Otherwise the old ways will continue. Your generation will find the answers to the questions mine could not. That much I believe. I think Itachi believed that. It's why he helped me. It's why he did what he did, both the bad and the good. When I took Naruto on as my apprentice, I taught him everything I felt he needed, Jiraiya added. But I did not teach him everything I knew. Some of my knowledge is better meant for those whom he will need in the future. I feel as though I'm almost at a breakthrough regarding Akatsuki. I just need my network to come through on a few more bits of information and I think I'll have what I need to put this Akatsuki threat to rest. Once it's over, I'll need to teach someone what they need to support Naruto, think about it, okay. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Hiashi was the last of the clan heads to arrive who wanted to wish the Uzumaki clan well, but the location of the party wasn't the most convenient considering Hanabi wanted to go to the party as well. She was still weak from her time in captivity with Orochimaru and so Hiashi found himself forced to carry her up, every single step, to the top of the monument. The things fathers did for the daughters. All for a piece of cake. Naruto was the center of attention, and currently engaged in a ramen eating contest between himself, Hiro, Nobu, Chuji and Chusa, and even Hinata. If people like Tsunade and Sakura were going out on the alcohol, those five were going out in a food coma as Hiashi figured his daughter was only there for emotional support. Winner, Hyuga Hinata with 34 bowls. Tsuki declared as the men were tapped out and Hinata looked like she was getting started. So that explains it, Sakura realized as she watched over from the table where she was having a drink with her master. The alcohol might have been going to her head a little, she didn't know. It's not like her and Tsunade were counting casks. Wrapping her arms around Hinata, Sakura had her hands resting on Hinata's rather busty C. That's your secret, Hinata. Sakura-san, what secret? What secret? You know what secret? EEEP. Having come back from his little talk with Sasuke, Jiraiya's notebook was out and pen scribbling. Oh yes, his S was saved. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Come on Sakura dear, up we go, grunted Kazashi as he hoisted his drunk daughter onto his back. The party was finally starting to wind down, and Sakura was snoozing on her dad's shoulder. And Sasuke had used now as a perfect excuse to leave the party. The Uchiha district, where Sasuke's apartment was located just on the outskirts, was first. But as they passed by, Sasuke sort of just stopped and stood there while Kazashi continued on for a few more steps before stopping. He hadn't slept here since returning from the mission regarding Orochimaru, only returning home to change into his formal kimono. You know, we do have a guest room you can use for a day or two, Kazashi stated. Long enough for you to look into finding a different place. Never understood why you chose to remain. I get that this is your family's home and all, but there are too many ghosts here. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun, are you coming or do I need to leave you here as well? Hinata giggled as Naruto had waddled his way down from Monument Park to return Hanabi to the hospital. No, I'm coming Hinata-chan. No way was he spending a night in the hospital. Well, shall I walk you home? Naruto offered and Hinata just giggled. But as they reached the point in the road where Naruto would go right and Hinata would go left, to Naruto's surprise, Hinata continued right and she wasn't letting go of his hand as the two continued onward back to his apartment. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Report. The base is clear, Danzo-sama, one of Danzo's route agents reported. No sign of Daichi, sir. I did not expect him to be at this base, Danzo stated. After all, this core base is only at the border of the land of Earth, he would not stray so far from Iwagakure. Danzo, sir. Report Fu. I have the location of 2 more of Core's peripheral bases. Danzo nodded. Danzo was not happy. The re-emergence of Core, Iwagakure's equivalent of Root, had prompted drastic action on his behalf to ensure they could not threaten Konoha, or his own route operations again. And such action had prevented his attendance at a rather critical council meeting. Fortunately, both organizations existed in the shadows. What would become of this shadow war wouldn't be heard of or seen. Neither Konoha nor Iwa would risk exposing their own or other dark operations. For exposing one would require exposing your own skeletons. Although, Root, Core, Storm, June, and Depth, it wasn't like every village didn't have their own dark operations. Omake, the first ever annual Uzumaki arm wrestling tournament. Enough of these childish games. Tsunade drunkenly shouted after quickly downing yet another glass of sake. Time we get a real party game started. Real party game. Tsunade drunkenly grinned as Shizune gulped. The thought of the potential damage which could come out of her drunken master exceeded anything Naruto's group of friends could potentially even sneeze at. I declare the first Uzumaki clan arm wrestling tournament. And Shizune sighed. If there was one sport her master's ungodly strength gave her a clear advantage in, it was arm wrestling. She was unbeatable, although there was that one time she was defeated by the Raikage of all people. Shizune thought this idea would escalate quickly, considering no one would be foolish enough to challenge the renowned strength of the Godime. And yet, Naruto cracked his knuckles, Lee and Guy were reveling in this challenge of strength, Nobu his fist into his palm, and Chuji and Chuza were both activating their partial expansion jutsus. But just because they were giddy, didn't mean they would win. One by one, challenges fell against the still drunk Hokage. Until finally only 2 remained. Master and student, Tsunade and Sakura. No one was surprised, at least no one sober was surprised. Tsunade and Sakura gripped hands and the match started. But neither hand budged. There was one person who could match Tsunade's strength, and that person was Sakura. The Pinkett even found herself winning, until Tsunade decided to take a page from the book of the only person to beat her. Arm wrestling wasn't just about strength and leverage, it could also be about speed and burst strength. So with a mighty burst of speed, Tsunade stunned Sakura's hand into the stump which was their battlefield, and sending up a cloud of dust and debris as if someone had just set off a dozen exploding tag. Tsunade was nearly about to celebrate her triumph, but then a crack appeared in the ground. A small crack, nothing to worry about. But that crack quickly propagated, heading towards the edge of the cliff which overlooked the village. The crack grew and grew, until finally it reached the edge. And a foreboding chink echoed throughout the party grounds, something you'd expect for cleanly breaking fine granite. But what quickly followed the chink was a resounding thud, and a plume of dust and debris erupting from where the Shodime's head on the monument should be. Everyone gulped, and one brave soul crept to the edge of the cliff, looking to see what the commotion was. It was probably better if no one looked, for the Shodime's head had been cleaved clear off the side of the cliff, falling off and rolling into the tower, destroying it along with a good portion of the streets leading up to the tower. Congratulations, Tsunade-sama, Shizune growled ominously. And Tsunade couldn't help wince as she knew exactly what was going to come next. I hope you enjoy your prize of another mountain of paperwork we both know is going to be a result. If there was any one time Naruto didn't want to be Hokage, it was right now. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.